travelers, tourists, regular Russian people, and even Russian dog owners. They cannot participate in international dog competitions. Most sanctions target economy, and it makes sense. Economy needs to be weakened so Russia cannot wage the war in Ukraine any longer. There are all kinds of economic sanctions, including individual companies, government agencies, and even entire industries. Despite all of that, Russian economy is, it's still alive, not dead. Many supporters of the Russian world are seeing it as a strength, celebrating and simply going crazy over it, both in Russia and abroad. I'd like to make an analysis and find out why Russian economy is not dead yet, despite all the sanctions. Perhaps the sanctions aren't strong enough. Perhaps they're not working. Or perhaps the economy is dead. It's just we don't know about it yet. In any case, let's try to find out. Howdy everyone, my name is Konstantin and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. What you will not find on this channel is BS, propaganda, and lies. What you will find on this channel is truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions, because I am lots of economic information, and not so complicated, because I try to keep it simple. For the first 30 minutes or so, I deliver a message, and then I invite everyone to go over to the live stream chat where we converse. I answer questions, blah blah blah. Thank you. And let me tell you a disclaimer first. In order to understand if the international sanctions working or not, we need to dig deeper into the economic data. Now, extracting economic data in general isn't the fun thing to do. Although I'm an economist and I like economy, I don't think much about economy. I can't really say that I really like economic data. I guess that's what but understanding data is one way or other. Knowing the data is what's economists, a person that I respect very much. She's an economics professor at Moscow State University. So I took the data found by her and used it for my own analysis. And that's just the disclaimer. This is what I found. First things first, let me admit a mistake. In March 2022, I thought Russian economy was going to collapse and would collapse by the end of 2022, by the end of last year, and it did not happen. The economy did take a huge hit, but it didn't collapse. Russian propaganda came up immediately with a myth that Russian economy started getting stronger from the war, from the sanctions, and from the Russia being isolated for the rest of the world. The theories that I heard, they're absolutely crazy. Like, you see, this what lack of competition does. It actually gives advantage to Russian companies. Lack of competition, it never does any good to anyone. But for people who don't really know much about how economy works, how businesses work, they buy it, okay? A large army of public people, I call them war apologists, they picked up that propaganda's message, the myth. Russian economy is doing better and stronger than it was before the war, so therefore it's good for us, you know. Some picked up that message unintentionally, not knowing what they are saying, and some know exactly what I've been doing. They sold their souls. Now let's talk about the economy. By the end of 2022, Russian economy did not collapse as I had predicted. Actually, it's still alive today in September of 2023, 9 months later after my prediction of it collapsing. It's alive, although it's very sick, and what it looks like, it's sick with a terminal disease. What makes me say that? Let's find out. This is what's happened. Okay, let's start with people. Another mistake I made, I thought that people would be getting poorer and poorer. But you know what? Again, I was wrong. People in Russia, for many months in a row, got richer and richer. And this is why. Actually, perfect explanation for that. Now, I looked at along with Natalia Zaborevich, at the Rosstat data, Russian government statistic agency. Real earnings of people, regular Russians, have grown by 5% if we compare second quarter of 2023 to second quarter of 2022. You know, quarter by quarter analysis, quarter to quarter. Now, everything that comes out of Rosstat, we take it with a big grain of salt, you know, lies. But it's difficult to fact check Rosstat because they made tons of information secret, not available to public. So let's take these numbers, you know, that Rosstat has given us. First, in 2022, Russian government increased social benefits to unseen before levels. The social payments, the war started in the summer of 2022, and in 2023 they increased even more. Single mothers, citizens living on the poverty line, you know, families of fallen soldiers, you name it. So many new social payments have been introduced, and the old ones were increased, beefed up. Second, at least 350,000 Russian men. In reality, I think many more than that. But the official statistics, the official data from the Russian Ministry of Defense give us this number. 350,000 Russian men were mobilized. Mobilization was announced last year, September 2021. It was pretty bad. Now, who were mobilized? Let's ask this question. Blue-collar workers, farmers, unemployed, and prisoners. Mostly people who weren't doing well financially before. If you want to find doctors, engineers, computer programmers, businessmen, you know, small businessmen, don't look for them on the front lines in Ukraine. You will find them here in Tashkent, in my Russian-Ukrainian community called Tashkent International Breakfast Club. You will also find them in other communities all over Tashkent, in Almaty, in Astana, Tbilisi, Yerevan, Istanbul, in the places, in the cities where Russian emigre communities. And I think you get an idea, you know. You will find the white-collar workers anywhere but in Russia, in the front lines. I call these people the smart ones. They're outside of Russia. But if you want to find, let's say, a small food store security guard or a janitor, you know, a person who wasn't really doing well financially before, you know, and who started doing financially very well, all of a sudden, most likely you go to the front lines. Russians there get paid money that they had never dreamt of. They're making around $2,500 dollars per month now. And before, most likely, they were making around $300 and so forth. So that salaries multiply. To sum it up, at least 350,000 Russians went from rags to riches almost instantaneously. Third, starting October 2022, salaries in Russia for the remaining white-collar workers and for pretty much everyone started growing. That was a very strange phenomenon. They started growing not on paper, but not in the government reports, not in the Rosstat, definitely, but they started growing in reality. And do you know why? That's right, the mass exodus of smart Russians that started in September of 2022. September 21st, to be exact. I am one of the people who left, and I documented my leaving Russia. I had 36 hours to pick up everything, burn bridges, and get the hell out of Russia. And I actually documented my way out, so if you haven't seen it, the link is right here, check it out. So, according to some experts, over 3 million people have left Russia. They left, since the start of the war. And I call this the mass exodus, they basically ran away from the war and from the globalization. So many, imagine how many vacancies opened up. Educated and experienced men simply packed up and left the country with no intentions of coming back. What did employers started doing? Well, actually, the only thing they could do. They started attracting talent by increasing salaries. The leader in this has been the military-industrial complex enterprises. The military-industrial complex and its enterprises. They just do not compete against other enterprises. They're not in the free market. They must fulfill the orders given to them by Ministry of Defense. Therefore, they just don't care about the money. They need people, and in some cases, they even double people's salary. Okay, so increase in salaries for the workers in the industrial military complex have been pretty enormous. So it makes perfect sense that many Russians started making more money almost instantly. And this trend actually continues right now. The more Russians are at the front line, the more rockets, missiles, and guns are needed to be produced fast. The more men leave Russia, the more, the faster and more military-industrial complex grows, the higher the salaries are. There's simply nothing else to do but to raise salaries, plain and simple. And fourth, the amount of unsecured personal loans hit record all-time high. This summer, well, the banks started giving out loans since beginning of summer of last year, but summer of 2023 has been pretty unbelievable for, the ones who want to take out loans. Banks are giving out unsecured loans like there's no tomorrow. They don't care. It's gotten so bad that Russia's central bank started warning commercial banks and threatening them with fines and with penalties. Because the central bank understands the dangers and risks of this, and it also understands who will be bailing commercial banks out if they fail, or actually when they fail. Yes, the central bank, but the commercial banks, they don't care. They need money now. There's no tomorrow for them, because they know what's going on in Russia. They know what's coming, and they know what's coming very, very soon. And to top it off, the number of car loans started going up this summer. For basically one simple reason. Russian drivers had been waiting for a year, because they had nothing to buy. All Western brands left Russia quite some time ago in 2022, and there are foreign cars on sale in Russia, but they're extremely high because instead of being imported directly to Russia, they're imported to India, then to Kazakhstan, then to Armenia, and then to Russia. There's actually a trail, a logistics pathway that a car needs to go through in order to end up in Russia, and that costs money. Okay, so most Russian foreign-made cars have gone in prices tremendously, and Russian people simply cannot afford buying them. And they were, they need to drive something, so they finally understood that Chinese cars is all they have and all they will have for a very long time, and they started buying them, plain and simple, and the banks started giving out car loans, and this trend continues. So now let's take at this 4 major things. I remind you, first, social benefits. The government's been paying people an arm and a leg and increased a huge amount of money. Second, all of a sudden, those who were mobilized started making lots of money, considering what they were making before. They started swimming in money, so to speak. Third, exodus. People have been leaving, therefore so few people to fill up the vacancies, and there are many vacancies, therefore the only way to attract people, offering them more money. And 4, unsecured bank loans. These things have been flooding markets with money. They've been flooding Russians with Russians' pockets with money, so to speak. Well, shouldn't say flooding. That's actually Russians all of a sudden started making more than they used to make before. Okay, and guess what happens next? If you start making more money, there are 2 ways. If you're smart, you can start saving it and investing. If you're not so smart, you can start spending it on things. It's called consumption. And guess what Russians started doing? They started spending on things. The consumption in the country has gone up tremendously. Around spring of 2023, and I've been looking closely at the numbers, the consumption started growing. Now, a few things started growing. Just give you an example of few industries. Some industries have imploded, and there's no way around it. That's what happened. For example, my industry I used to work in, the energy construction. No one constructs power plants anymore because it's long-term projects. You need lots of bank loans, and bank loans don't give you that. They give consumer loans, yeah, but not business loans. So, but there is another industry that is fast food. What do people do when they are in great distress? They start eating a lot of junk. They start eating more than they used to eat before. Not only makes perfect sense, it's true. Happens everywhere in any country, and Russians are no exception. So in general, people tend to eat more junk in a situation like this. Uncertainty, war, stress, and so forth. Second is the mobilized. Now, a lot of mobilized that have been sent to Ukraine, they've been killed. But they have been some who haven't been. They're still alive. So, but guess what? They have money they have pockets full of money. Well, not really like full of money, but to them it feels like they're all of a sudden millionaires. Hey, a guy was making 20,000 rubles per month for, you know, a few years, and all of a sudden he's making 250,000, 12 times more. Yeah, of course he's feeling like a millionaire. He feels like he's gotta catch up with all these wonderful things that he had missed before he was mobilized. And the very first thing, of course, he starts going up. You know, plain and simple. For the first time in their lives, the mobilized, they have enough money to go out and have rustics and tasty period that replaced McDonald's. And they spend money on eating out. The Rostov region borders Ukraine, and there's plenty of people in military uniforms, you know, soldiers, are in Rostov region, and its fast food industry has exploded by 68% in the last year alone. They make more money, therefore they spend more money. And in general, the sales of non-food products have started going up in the this summertime. The consumers started accepting the fact that from now on, they have access to crap products from China. And they have accepted this fact. And now they live with this fact. And they started downgrading their habits to buying Chinese crap. Okay, so I think it's called delayed demand. They have been waiting for a long time, for a year, for things to change, but now they're looking and thinking that that's not going to change anytime soon. And they have more money to spend, because if they're, you know, in Russia still, they're probably making more because there are fewer people competing for jobs. Or they take out unsecured personal loans, okay? So they start spending. They start spending on gadgets, unnecessary stuff, you know? Not investments, you know, not necessary things. And moreover, if we talk about the economy in general, there are investments. Yes, there are. Now, I've been telling you all along that both Western and Russian investors left, and that's one of the huge tragedies that Russia is economically going through right now. You know, both Western and Russian investors left. Yet in Rostov region alone, there's been a 46% of investment increase. What? Who is paying for all this? Who is the investor? Who's building, I don't know, stuff, roads? No one's building power plants, that's for sure. But you know, things, perhaps bridges, things like that. Guess what? This investor is very clear: Russian government. You see, what I meant by saying the investors have left, private investors. Both Russian and Western private investors have left. They left a long time ago, last year. They left in March when Russia just invaded Ukraine, days after, because every normal investor understood what was coming to Russia, and they're smart people. And they left. Well, how is this possible? How is this possible? Russia is doing well, right? This is where all war apologists are shouting, oh, Russia economy is doing well. But actually, they don't look beyond this point. They don't look what's going on, what's truly going on. That economy doing well is basically increased government spendings. There's nothing more to it. That's it. Government spending galore. The explanation is really simple. Russia briefly enjoyed the money rain. Of course, coming from, guess what? Russia's biggest and fattest bread maker, oil. In March 2022, panic descended on the global oil markets. Remember how much you personally, you were paying at the gas station. Well, in March, in April, in May of 2022 last year. Remember that? Guess who was all that Yes, Russian government. Russia started, for a brief moment, started swimming in money. On top of that, Russia was making last year in the summertime, and Russia had been saving that extra income coming from oil for decades, for 20 years. Huge incomes from oil and natural gas. And you know what? I give it to them. They did not spend it all. They were actually saving quite a bit, and they had a good savings account. Now, when the war came in, was started, that's half of that saving account was placed in Europe, in European banks, and now it's still there, but frozen. Russia cannot touch it, and most likely will never will. Most likely that half of Russia's savings account, that's called currency reserves. Okay, I'm just simplifying it by saying savings account so you understand. So that savings account frozen in Europe most likely will go to Ukraine for rebuilding Ukraine. But Russia still has half of this bank account, savings account inside Russia, and that's over $300 billion. That can last for quite some time. So one thing, Russia had a huge amount of extra income last spring and some part of summer. And second, Russia had a saving account, a special reserve foundation. And what was the result? Well, mucho dinero. And mucho of saved dineros have been paying for this so-called Russian economy doing well. That's what they've been saying all along. Russian economy doing well. This is very simple. All those large payments to the mobilized, all new constructions, including in the 4 new provinces of, well, so-called new provinces, whatever they call new provinces, that parts of Ukraine that Russia stole from the country. You know, they've been pumping money there too. All increased social payments, you know, all paid by the Russian government, and it's been acting like there's no tomorrow. You know, I'll give you an example of a household. I love this example. Let's say there's a family, a couple kids, 2 teenagers, a father and mother. They have 2 jobs. Mother is a nurse and father is an engineer, and they're making combined $100,000 per year. Well, it's not bad, you know, it's decent. They have 2 cars, they have a couple of credit cards, and they have fairly good credit score, so they have tons of credit cards with unused credit. Let's say, you know, $100,000 limit. And all of a sudden, a father comes in and says, you know what? I've been laid off. No income anymore. The mother says, well, you know what? I've been, my hours have been cut in half. So I'll be making half from now on. And the kids go, well, Mom, Dad, what are we gonna do? And Mom and Dad smile. They take out credit cards and say, kids, no worries, we have credit cards. And they go out and upgrade a car. You know, the car is 3 years old, they buy a new one, you know, finance. And then they start going out every day to fancy restaurants. And then they book a trip to Hawaii, and they spend tons of money there. And, you know, they just simply don't count money. And they increase allowance to the kids. And the kids go, Mom, Dad, you know, what's going on? What are we going to do in a couple of weeks? And Mom and Dad go, no worries, you know. Don't think about it. You know, we live for today. Enjoy today. Who cares what's going to happen in a couple of weeks, in a month, you know? And we'll have this credit card payment, letters, bills. We'll just throw them away and they keep on spending. No worries, you know. And this is exactly what's happening in Russia. The Russian government's message is, hey, people, don't think about it. We'll live for today in Russia. Bottoms up. Sober is boring. So stay buzzed and sit down and watch Russian TV. We will tell you exactly how things are. Great in Russia. The West is falling apart. Russian ruble is getting stronger and that dollar is simply shrinking. Oh, so Russian government's living like there's no tomorrow. Instead of investing money, that extra money they had, into something that will bring good returns in the economy. For example, applying good economic policies, lowering taxes, so small business and businesses in general grow. They stop the war and cut spending on military-industrial complex. Doing all these things, Russian government is doing everything on the contrary. Okay, it doesn't care what's going to happen to Russia in the long run. Russia is run by mafia. It's a mafia state, and the mafia on the very top, there are a few people. They don't care. They know they're not gonna last for a long time, so they are hanging on to their power for as long as they can, and everything around them is just simply falling apart due to the direct result of their actions. But they don't care. They just don't care what happened next week. Today they live one day and it's good enough. Heck, there's really no tomorrow for them, and they know that. So I made a mistake forecasting Russian economy, but not a big one. Russian economy is going down. It has been going down, and it's just I thought it would go down faster, but there are objective reasons for it to slow down. But again, I'm not feeling super smart telling you that the economy is going down. It's rather obvious to any normal economist. An economy cannot thrive in a condition of harsh international economic sanctions. Take away oil trade from Russia, Russia's biggest brand maker, and Russia will go down, because it's been dependent on oil exports for decades, for the past 23 years. Switch off Russian banks of SWIFT, this international payment system, and you will see troubles started brewing with Russian financial system. And the list goes on. Right.